Cut. Turn the music off. So you, yes you, want to play Lithia? Well then listen up, cause I got a few secrets I can share with you. About the highly fashionable Minecraft State. Wait, no, that's not it. The Mighty Miner. Well, just know that I've got your back. I'm here to help. I'm Quinketsu, a Lithia / Ellis's main, but primarily I play Lithia. I wouldn't say that I'm the greatest Lithia, but I'm definitely a real diamond in the rough. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. No? Okay. Anyways, so let's get into what you want to know. You want to get into Lithia and become the greatest of all time with her. Well, here's the truth. You gotta work for it. I know it hurts. You can send your hate to the chef, but old Ketsu Sensei is here to show you how much of a gem Lithia really can be. With proper care and knowledge that I'll try my best to give you, you'll be well on your own way to becoming a true A+ miner. And tip number 1, 99% of miners quit before they hit it big, so never give up. So, now that introductions are out of the way, let's get started. Lithia's main features that she has available to her straight away is her gemstone mechanic and her sling feature. I'll start with her sling since it's the easiest to explain. Now, she is no modern day hash sling slasher, but she sure does get around. Lithia has 2 sling uses when she first starts. Later on, you get a cap of 3. And yes, before you ask, they are omnidirectional linearly. The only thing about it is that you can't go downward. So if you want to go diagonal left, you can. Diagonal right, you can. If you want to go fully up, you can. You can go forward, and you can go back, but for that, it just turns you around anyway, so yeah. You get the idea. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Her sling comes back to her, you get 1 usage every 2 seconds. And personally, I like to use it for certain situations, like when you need to get out of the way, and your normal speed just won't get you out of the way in time, or if I need to quickly reposition after making an enemy or opponent miss their skill, and then I'll basically sling back into them and then use a skill. Pretty straightforward. So now, let's talk about her gemstones, the real meat and potatoes of her entire kit. The system that you as a player will focus on the most is gonna be her gemstones. Now, some basic information. When you first start out, Lithia has 5 gemstones max. Later on, when you reach the higher pass, you'll gain a max of 10 gemstones. I know at the start it can be very confusing, so let me just real quick go over it and give you some general information that I think should probably be detailed out. So, real quick, if you look up here, I already have it set up, and obviously when you hover over it, you get some more information about it, but I'll talk about those things in a second, because you need to kind of understand how this system works before, I talk about those things. So, straight away, I'll say this, when it's green like this, it is a filled gemstone. This, when it's white, gray, silver, whatever color you want to call it, it is not filled. I know it might seem like it's filled, but it's just in the process of being filled, but it's not a completely filled gemstone. When it's blacked out like this, it is not filled. So with that being said, now we can start talking about the passives and just the other information about it. So it says, when holding gemstones, damage reduction by 2% per 1 gemstone. What that means is, per every one filled gemstone, only filled. Remember, when it's green like this, it is filled. When it's white, silver, gray, whatever you want to call it, it's not filled. When it's blacked out, it is not filled. So for each one of those that you have filled, not each gemstone that you have in general, just for one that you have filled, you gain 2% damage reduction. Obviously later on, that maxes out to a total of 20% damage reduction, which is really good. Her next thing, upon using gem skill, use gemstones to enhance skill effect. Now, I'll put on screen exactly all the skills that get enhanced by this and how they get enhanced, but real quick, let me go over this. Also, really good gemstone charging skill, charging gem, obviously. You probably used it, but I'll use it really quick. So, as you can see, I gain 2 initially, and then I gain a passive of 2 gemstones every 1 second. Really good. So now, if I use a skill like Supreme Blast, You see how it automatically just used 2 gemstones? I didn't have to do anything, I didn't have to press anything special, I just used the skill, and there you go. It spent the 2 gemstones to enhance the skill. And again, I'll put up on screen, probably right now in a second, all the ways that it gets buffed. So now that you know the basics of her, we can start moving forward into talking about her second job from level 35, and then talking about her progression from mid-game into late game into end game content. So I want to talk about her transcendence stuff, and then some more changes, and then going into talking about her last mechanic, which is her relic system. So yeah, I'll see you on the other side. Alright. I'll get into section 2 in a real quick second, but I just really quick have to bring this up. Doesn't Lithia look like Amelia Watson with this outfit on? Now, I might be an absolute crazy person, but I'm not gonna lie. She looked exactly like Amelia Watson. Even with the coat off, she still looks exactly like Amelia Watson. Now, I might just be crazy or a super geek, but I'm just saying. Either way, either way, let's move into section 2. Alright, jokes out of the way for a second. Welcome to section 2. I want to quickly skim over Potent Finder and then talk about the more important stuff from your second job, starting at level 35, and then I want to talk about your level 35 to 70 stuff, and then talk about going forward, like Transcendence and whatnot, and I want to just touch on those quickly. Another quick thing, I'll talk about the other paths in another video, but for now, I'm only going to talk about Gembliss' path. So yeah, like I said, I'm going to quickly skim over Potent Finder and some skills and other things that I think you should keep in mind while you're going from level 35 to 70. Alright, so from there, first thing I'm going to talk about is Drum Cutter. Really good skill, really straightforward. You're going to be using that thing a whole lot, especially during the later parts of the game, because you know it's one of your main skills, especially for clearing and whatnot. It's a really good skill. Next skill, I don't actually have it on right now, but I'll put it on the screen what it is and what it does. It's just a buff, Power Stone, really good skill back then. I think it's still pretty alright. You know, it's a 10% physical attack buff. Why not use it? Next skill, another personal skill that I always liked in early game. For clearing, I was always using it, and I still use it from time to time, simply because I love the move. Supreme Blast. Really love that move. That one has a distinct place in my heart. So, next, going from there, I'm going to talk about some other things. Charging Gem. I already went over it. You already know what it does from the gemstone spot, so I'm actually not going to talk about it. And real quick, I'm going to go grab the other skill here. Alright, Obelisk. It's a really long skill. It just does passive damage. I like using it. It's damage. You don't really have to worry about it too much. You get 3 uses on it, and it's pretty low mana, so yeah, straightforward. Another personal favorite skill, and probably the last of my favorites. I mean, I do have other favorites, but so there's a little bit of quote-unquote tech, but Explodamine. I love this skill, and one of my favorite things to do with it is to use it and follow it with the sling. See how it went away after I used my 2 slings. I think personally that those things were made to go together, but yeah, that's my personal layout of skills, which I consider must-haves. My general rule of thumb is that you always want to have at least Obelisk, Charging Gem, and Drum Cutter in your hotbar. They're some of the earliest bread and butters that you can get, and those skills will be staying around for the long haul. So again, get used to using them and their positioning. If you want a more advanced guide on these things like positioning or more practical senses for some of these things that I'm talking about, I highly recommend that you look at Crea Archives video, which I will link below with their channel and also their guide for Gembliss for you to check out as well. Now, with that being said, by now you'll be well on your way to working towards level 70 and getting past Potent Finder and the second job, Mighty Miner. How fast they grow up. But you're not done yet. You still have a little dirt on your skills before you truly shine. So let me go over some things. Upon reaching level 70, you achieve the ability to go for your Transcendence. Getting Transcendence isn't too difficult with Lithia. It takes some time and it might feel like a change of pace from the usual breeze, but again, it's still pretty quick with Lithia, so no trouble. Upon completing the quest, you will get the rest of your skills, but for now, I need to talk about the mining system you unlock upon reaching second job. Okay, so let's talk mining. Getting the basic information out of the way, I'll start from the basic stuff and then go to the more, open stuff, I guess I'll call it. The more like advanced stuff. So, to start out, I'll say that first things first, you do not need to land mining to use it. And second thing I'll say is upon using mining, it doesn't matter where your gemstones are at, it'll always bring you to max because it gives you 10 upon gaining a relic. So yeah, if you need a quick thing to get all your gemstones back and you don't have charging gem somehow, then you can just use mining and then there you go. You'll have all of your gemstones back. So I'll put up on the screen everything that gets affected by both cutter skills and drill skills and exactly how they're affected as well. So I'll do that really quick and then I'll come back and then talk a little bit more about them. Now that that's out of the way, I can talk about the last few things and move on into the third job and masterclass and then wrap up. Okay, so going from there, when you have cutter or drill, you have a 50% chance to spawn a little mini version of a skill that does damage. So for cutter, it's just a mini version of drum cutter. And again, it doesn't matter what special active you use. It's for all special actives. You have the same 50% chance. So I'll show you what it looks like with cutter and with relic. So as you can see, when I use the skill, there was the mini cutter that came out of it, and I'll show you the same thing with drill. So there you go. You get a little mini mining thing. It just does extra damage. There's nothing special that comes out of those things. Just, extra damage, and extra damage is extra damage. So, always lovely. And last thing. Gemstone is so trash. Please don't use it. The only time that you should be using it is basically for PvP. Don't use it for PvE. Just ignore it. Act like it doesn't exist. It's not good. So don't use it. And with that being said, we can finally go into the wrap up after we talk about third job and masterclass. See you in section 3. Alright, we have finally made it. So now we can look at what goes on when you reach level 99 and you have gotten your quest for third job ascension. By now you're practically at the quote-unquote end game, in air quotes obviously. I say that because there's a ton of content after where a lot of people would consider the end portion of the game. A lot of casual players should and probably will drop off more or less around Riggamore, the moment where the game difficulty does have a considerable jump. But regardless, we're now in the home stretch. There is no backing out now, and remember, 99% of miners quit before they hit it big. You have to stay dedicated. And so, with that all out of the way, let's talk third job and masterclass things. Upon reaching your third job, I believe that's when you gain the ability to use force skills and mod skills. I'll show you the mod skills that you unlock straight away really quick, and some quick tips I'll say, and then we can head straight into wrap up. So first thing I'll talk about is mod strain. So you already know me, I'm pretty biased about strain. I really like strain, and mod strain is, well, it's one of my favorites too, but I can't pick between the two. So here's what mod strain does. As you can see, it is a, relatively strong, honestly, mod skill. And what it does is it summons a small, slow moving projectile, and while it's active, it will home in projectiles spawning around it to the nearest enemy to the rock. Not to Lithia, but to the rock. They will not home in to where Lithia, or whatever is closest to Lithia. It will only home in to whatever is closest to it, the projectile initially. So that's what I'll say about mod strain. Next thing I'll be talking about is Mod Impact Crusher. So I'm going to start this off by saying, please, for the love of God, don't use Impact Crusher at all. Don't use Mod Impact Crusher either. Don't use either of them. If you are, please switch it out for literally anything else. Don't use Impact Crusher. Please, don't do it. But here's what it looks like. It's just basic Impact Crusher, but this time it's smaller and it's over duration. Please don't use this thing. It's really bad. Don't use it. Please, I'm begging. So next skill that I'll be talking about is going to be Mod Wreckage. I'll show you really quick what that skill looks like. Pretty straightforward. It's just a smaller version of the normal wreckage, and you shoot it forward instead of having it just be stationary. In almost all contexts, I think Mod Wreckage is pretty good. Now, do I think that it's better than the normal wreckage? Not really. For bossing and, you know, just in general DPS situations, I think for the most part you should be using the normal wreckage over Mod Wreckage. But for longer bosses, I've heard people say that Mod Wreckage is better sometimes, but that's also just a positioning thing at times, and I can see it. I can see both sides of the coin, but personally, I use normal wreckage. I don't like Mod Wreckage. That's just my personal opinion, but I think it's still a good skill, so switch it out here and there, and I think that should be good. Now, congratulations. With that, you now have the basic knowledge to start your Lithia first path journey and become a true shining gem. I hope to see more Lithia players coming up in the game, and I know that this game can be confusing at times and things can get overwhelming quickly, but I want to give people a down-to-earth, more simple explanation of things while yapping and talking my head off that hopefully make it easier to understand and gather information. Again, I highly recommend that once you're more comfortable with Lithia and using her skills and systems, you look at Crea's video to go even deeper into what she can truly do to push her to the utmost limits. That was my guide. I'll see you in the next one. Like if you like it, and make sure to tell me in the comments if I missed anything or any sorts of feedback that you would have for me. Peace.